Button is hit.
So should I go?
We're waiting to make sure the stream's up.
You're live.
3, 2. Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is the podcast for the iRacer where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting for the 9th year now. Joining me are the usual characters, David Hall,
9?
Brad Wren,
Hey, everybody.
happy anniversary, John Curley,
Hey, iRacers. Yeah, happy anniversary, guys.
and Justin Pearson.
What's up, my friends? Happy anniversary.
On today's show, we get an update on the state of Fanatec, review the hot patch for the week, look ahead to the upcoming iRacing special events, see how the eNASCAR series handled the high banks of Dover, discuss the price model of iRacing and what should warrant a track rescan, and see what it takes to find speed when qualifying for the Coca-Cola eNASCAR series.
That's right. And remember that you can follow along with us on your PC or your mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all of the great topics and products we'll discuss by visiting iRacersLounge.com. Select the show notes. We hope to see you there.
Okay, let's talk iRacing 101. This one's probably kind of close to home for all of us. They have an article telling, I guess, particularly newbies, the ins and outs of the NIS and other year-long series. So take it away, Mike.
Yeah, this is a great, like you said, for newbies who come in, what they see in front of them is a lot of 12-week seasons, to run, but it's not really apparent that there's other options. When you look at the UI, it's really lacking. Like they should almost have a separate section for these other seasons that are longer than 12 weeks, in my opinion. But regardless, this is a way to get the word out that, hey, NIS is a thing. Now, at the bottom, they also ask a question: are there other series like NIS? And they point out the F1 Grand Prix Tour, which is trying to kind of mimic the F1 schedule. And then you have the IndyCar iRacing series, which me and others on our team have been participating in this year.
Isn't there a Class B that runs the whole year as well?
I think they track the points, but it's still, I think, broke up into 12 weeks, sort of. But hang on.
I think you're right, but they don't mention it in this article.
I'm not aware of one, but when I was just a listener on this show, I would listen to you talk about NIS all the time. And I didn't have a clue what NIS was. And so I'm glad
What it
they've got
stands for.
Yeah, I didn't know. And so I'm glad they've got this in explaining what it is so people will know, hey, we've got a year-long series here that you can get into. This is a good idea.
So go ahead, Justin.
No, I was just going to bring up, Curly reminded me of the same thing when I started, because I started 3 years ago and had a break for a year. When I was a fanboy and listened to you guys, you go through the results in NIS, and I was like, hey, what's that? And, I typed on a computer a little bit and figured it out. But yeah, I wouldn't have known about that unless this podcast.
All right. So looking at the Class B and Class C, the schedule runs the full year. So starts in Daytona for both, but runs consecutively the full year. But I guess the difference is with NIS limits the amount of starts, and I think that's what makes NIS unique. Same thing with the IndyCar series. Class B, Class C, you can still, races are every 2 hours and whatnot, just like Class A. Class A will follow the schedule. But with NIS, your IndyCar, and probably the F1 one as well, you're limited to, I guess, what is it, 4 starts in open with NIS, 4 starts in fixed. Is that it?
There's 5 in fixed.
4 and 5, I think.
That's what to me makes NIS so unique, is because it's limited starts. You just can't do 100 do-overs every time you go to run a race. You have a week like David did last week where he could only do 1 race. I've had those too, where it's 1 shot. That's all you get. That's what I think makes NIS so much better, especially if you're competing for a championship, just because you just don't have all the opportunities to make up a race.
But you still have a chance to usually run multiple runs, just not literally 24/7. So it's balanced.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could have, like, for us, like, if I have a bad Wednesday, I'm going to run Friday night and open. But if I can't run on Sunday open, and those are the only 2 opens I can run. If I have 2 bad nights, then I've had 2 bad nights. That's what it is.
The other thing you get with NIS is you've got the Daytona 500, the Coke 600, Brickyard 400, and you got the Bristol Night Race in September. So you don't get that in the B or C classes. So that's unique to NIS, I think, isn't it? Class A.
Unique to NIS. So Class A will run at those events, but they don't run the full distance. So the special events only stay within the NIS calendar.
Which, if you have the IndyCar iRacing series, which is kind of trying to mimic the whole thing, you would think the Indy 500 full distance would be part of that schedule, part of that series.
I'm gonna guess they weren't able to do that because of it coming on so late. And
Timing.
there's some timing and conflicts that they're having to work on. Like, aren't they running fixed and open the same week, which they didn't do in the past, just because they have to cram it in?
And who knows? There's special qualifying for Indy 500 that doesn't happen in any other race. And so maybe that's some kind of technical limit of putting it into some series. Maybe that's why it's a standalone event.
Well, NIS and the other year-long series, that it really adds to the experience of iRacing and gives you a different sense of, I guess, immersion, realism, and competition. It feels more important. So if you don't already run any of these, you really should.
Now, David, one more thing. I just want to call out to iRacing. This is great. I love this article, but we got to incorporate in the UI. So when you get that one lone user who doesn't listen to a podcast, who gets in there and he loves NASCAR, it's not apparent that this is a thing. And I don't know how you have to make that stand out. Maybe you have official 12 weeks and maybe there's a separate official, year long or something like that. I don't know, but I'm not a UI designer, but as John said, coming in, and Justin said, coming in fresh, you have no idea, what it means.
Well, how about this? I just opened up the website UI, right? And I'm glancing. I see special offers. I see these 101s should be on the UI. Quite frankly, it should either be on the
link to it.
homepage or literally it should be on the menu on the left. iRacing 101. Put this in. This is great stuff. Make it easy to find for the youngins.
I wouldn't even know where to find it. I mean, I'm gone to help. I would think that maybe it's there. I don't see it anywhere.
See, so a lot of work to do there.
All right, what do we got next here, John? Multi-class oval style.
Yeah, we've got it looks like from iRacing Official, they've got a little feed showing some multi-class oval racing. I think, guys, is that Slinger Speedway?
Not sure.
I
Maybe
think it is.
Irwindale.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it wasn't clear to me, but yeah, it just shows multi-class oval racing, which we don't really do much of, but it's got the Gen 4 car, the SK modified, late models. I mean, just different cars flying around the track. I've never raced multi-class oval. I mean, is that a thing?
No, but I would love for this to be an official series. This is probably a league. You can do it. There's been some special events in like the majors that have done stuff like this, but it's never really been an official thing.
I think it'd be fun if you have enough drivers. If you fill the room and you have 40 drivers, I think this would be a blast. If you have 10, you're going to have cars that are faster than others. So I don't know, but it looks like a fun special event. Like maybe we have one of those team events on the off weeks and stuff. Maybe we try this.
Random question. You and David, you and Tom talk about the majors. What is that?
It's a league.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a league that, and it used to be called the Pacific Majors because they were kind of they were based in a Pacific time zone. Um, but what they do is they focus on major races. So they actually, I think, just opened up practice sessions for their version of the Indy 500. And then they have the Majors 24. I think you're signed up for that, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're gonna probably run that. That's the weekend that St. Louis race is, which is why I've decided I want to go ahead and stay home and run the Majors 24. Sorry, John.
But on the majors, talk about historically what it's meant to iRacing in the past. When we first had our first special events, iRacing just had the majors do it, right?
Uh, that may have been when I wasn't active. I don't
The
recall that.
club. Remember when we were doing club points and all that?
No,
Brad, you am I speaking out of turn?
Um, no, I mean I remember. No, I can remember them being done by iRacing.
Okay, maybe I am.
the only thing they filled in, I mean, they run the majors races. So they run the Indy 500, they run the Daytona 500. One year we did a Rockingham 400 or 500-mile race. So I know how long that can take. Uh, they will run Spa sometimes. They pick major historical races and just highlight those. So every season, you're running different major races, both on the road side and the oval side.
Oh, and they raced Le Mans when we couldn't race Le Mans.
Yeah, they did do that. That's now made a big thing, a major thing, pun intended. Um, and they actually televise their like top four splits, and they have live pace cars for those top four splits as well. Another thing that was pretty neat, for every split, they had live admins since it's a 24-hour race. And last year we had somebody dump us. We you can file the protest with the replay. And actually, I don't even think you have to send a replay. You just go and submit a Google form. This lap is where it happened. Here's the driver, and they're in the server. They go back and watch that replay, and they'll give them a drive through or a stop and go. It may take them 30 minutes to get to it, but when you're in a 24-hour race, you've got that time to take that time.
So back to the multi-class oval. I mean, we kind of told Chris Waldron that he was going to be the guy to organize our All-Star event that we're going to hold. Maybe we do the multi-class with the All-Star. I don't know. Maybe not.
It'd be fun. All right, Brad, if it ain't broke, should we fix it?
So we had a post from Connor Zilish with a shot of the right-hand curb going into the bus stop at Watkins Glen, where it looks like they're adding some. I wouldn't call them turtles, but um, I know that they reprofiled all this a few years ago and took a lot of the, I guess the rumble strips out, where guys were basically catching air. So it looks like that we're attempting to put some, I guess, some rumble strips back down to keep the cars from cutting.
Well, if you click on the actual Twitter post and go down, you'll see that Kyle Larson was part of this thread where he said he wears a mouthpiece and the G-force and the mouthpiece going through the bus stop is too high. Like there's too bumpy through there. And so what they're doing, Brad, is my understanding was they're smoothing it so it's not as bumpy. Now, yes, they did install a couple landmines out there, turtles as you call them, but I think on the inside of that though, it's actually been smoothed.
Yeah, but they reprofiled these some years ago. I mean, it's not like it used to be. I mean, you go back 10 years ago, and the cars would literally launch on both, I mean, on all three curbs, the right, the left, and then you would launch again coming off the right before you went into the carousel. I wonder if this is just maybe a symptom of the new car that's so rigid. Um, but they've taken a lot of profile out of those curbs over the last few years.
Yeah, but
And
there's
now
those
more.
turtles are kind of new, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, they are. I mean, that's
Got a
look,
polygon look.
that's the first thing I noticed getting back on the sim because Watkins Glen has been updated. I mean, first time I went into Watkins Glen coming back last year, I was like, where are the curves? Yeah, I mean, they're just not like they used to be. I mean, you literally used to, fling the car through there and up on two wheels, one side, then the other side.
And if you didn't, you weren't making a fast lap through there. I mean,
Correct.
that was what you had to do. Anyway, so why does it affect iRacing? Well, do we need to rescan for one curb at the bus stop at Watkins Glen, or no?
Not it. Well, at first it wouldn't take very long, but for turtles, they can just put those in, kind of like they did with Roval a couple of times, right? They just know the data on the curbs because they actually used iRacing to test before they put it on the real track.
I wonder, has the Glen been updated with 3D curbing yet?
No, I don't think so. I haven't heard that.
I mean, they're going through and doing that with a lot of the other, the current tracks. So perhaps when they do update to the 3D curbs, maybe we end up with what you call them, landmines.
Well,
I,
I think there's a couple of approaches. iRacing can fudge it, meaning they don't have a scan of it, but they can fudge the artwork and the physics of it, based on these pictures, based on pictures. Um, and then the other option is like you said, maybe go up and rescan just the bus stop, but not the whole track. Maybe they don't need to do the whole track, just what's changed.
well, speaking of what changed, Mike, what's changed with the current hotfix?
Well, the gist of it was it corrects an issue where rain effects and particle effects were not appearing when moving from practice to race. So it was like a pretty big deal. Like if you were doing a rain session, um, you would lose the rain apparently as you go from practice to rain or practice to race, like the visual part of it. That's the way I understood it.
So help my ignorance, because again, being off the sim for 6 or 7 years, when left, popcorn effects had just come in. That used to be options to, I guess, turn that on or whatever in the UI. I don't see it in there anymore. So is it just completely baked into the system now?
Yeah, I think so. You just have the high, medium, low on everything, basically.
Okay.
And really nothing else, David, of substance. So yeah, a quick patch.
I guess they made some changes to some of the cars as far as the vehicle damage, being able to be fully repaired, um, on some of the touring cars and say GT3 cars.
I don't know. If you bend the car really hard, I mean, should that be an option to fully repair it?
All right, next up we have stats galore. Let's talk about it, John.
Yeah, we've got a website called Nyoom, Nyoom.app. and this gives you all your iRacing statistics. I guess it's much like what we can get in the UI, but you can do a search here. For example, there's a guy here named Mike Ellis that's got a lot of wins. I got a lot of catching up to do, but you can track anybody you want on this. And I think last week we talked about another website that did this, but this one looks pretty good. A lot of detail.
Looks like almost just what you see, the same thing that you see when you look at the profile in iRacing. You can see the last 10 races, you can see the last 4 series, you can see your yearly stats, as well as your iRating trace.
The concern in the forums was you couldn't link to somebody's profile. Like if you're, hey guys, I have this candidate for the team. What do you guys think of these stats? And I would just throw a link your way. Now, when it's in the UI, I don't have a way of doing that. So I think that was kind of the gist of the guy who made this website, the way it kind of reads in the forums. The
Yeah,
other
that
thing I asked him was, what about the Heritage Road? You have the oval licenses at, the road and so forth. Apparently, if you click on sports car or formula car, you get an option to pull up the road.
I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
think this is a good one to bookmark. It gives you really everything all in one shot. I actually think it's much easier to look here than it is to look at the UI.
absolutely. In fact,
Yeah,
I'm
It's
bookmarking
very
this.
well formatted, yes.
yeah. And I saw in the forums. I mean, he plans to try to add a lot more information in here. Again, it's just I know we sound like all we do is complain about the UI. It's just it's just some things are hard to find, and it's hard to get information quickly and easily.
So, in that little picture, I don't know if this is supposed to be in the same uh, article or not, but it points out that iRacing removed the profile bios for security reasons. Remember how you could put like your
Right. They're not
biography and that stuff?
available. They're gone on the original site.
Yeah,
Is
that's
it?
what Mike was saying. You can't link to them anymore.
No, I'm talking about where you could put in you could put in your wins. You could basically put a block of text in of whatever you won. Because remember when they actually
Oh, you
made it.
edit.
Yeah, you could edit a block of text, basically saying whatever you wanted. Like, here's what I've won. Here's my biggest accomplishments. And then remember, for a while, whenever if you type the word indie, it would actually edit it out.
Yeah, they got rid of all that.
Well, this
You
site
might be
was
able to do that in the forums under your forum like you got a forum signature and there's stuff like that, right? In the forums.
That
Yeah, but
maybe, but so few people are. It really a lot of people are not using the new forms like they use the old. You don't get notifications in in the UI with the new forums. You only get them through email.
no, no, you do. They do announcements up at the top for notifications.
I'm talking about notifications if you get like messages or stuff.
I
If,
thought they
if
popped up there also.
Nope. If somebody replies to your forum thread or sends you a DM, you have to be on the forums to see it, or you get it through email. The notifications is only notifications about release notes, announcements, and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I think I know I asked you guys. I mean, trying to like even send somebody a message is just it's difficult. It didn't used to be that difficult. I mean, you used to be able to go in through the website and if I want to send Mike a message or whatever, all I do is find Mike, send him a message, boom,
You
you
could
get it. And you got to do it through the forums, which is it's more difficult.
you could send it by clicking on the race link, on their name on the race link, literally. It's definitely a lot less efficient. All right, Justin, how about you profile a iRacer or an iRacing staff member, in fact?
Yeah, we got a staff member, Jake Poland, and iRacing's got a little article here about, just who he is. I don't think this is like employee of the month or anything like that. They're just putting an article out about their employees. It looks like he's a production associate, and he started working here around 2020.
Yeah, it's a Q&A, and they talk. He shows some of the tracks so that he's worked on, like North Wilkesboro and the new Atlanta rescan, um, and so forth. So pretty cool to kind of put a face with a name.
I seen in that charity event I did yesterday. He actually works with FTF, and that's who put it on.
Yeah, and that was 4.5 hour race.
Yes, sir. That was long. I'm still sore.
Well, I notice they ask him what his biggest hobby is, and it looks like iRacing is what he really likes. It's good to know that these guys that work there, they play the sim, and that's got to help in the development of the sim.
And he collects Pokemon cards and NASCAR cards.
All right, Mike, on this next video, which one is the real one and which one's the fake one?
Oh, without blowing it up for my poor eyes, the only way I can tell is the overlays. So the bottom one is obviously iRacing because it's got the overlay. But look, if the overlay wasn't there, it's pretty hard to tell.
Yeah, I mean, there's some trees that are exactly the same. I noticed that when you're coming, I think, through the front stretch. I mean, we saw something similar to this with Sebring. Um, I did a bunch of races at Long Beach and IMSA. Um, just again, fantastic when you compare the two. It's just I think this is why iRacing is the cream of the crop.
So you're saying the top one's the real one?
I think the top one's is the
It-
iRacing.
yeah, I think
Be
they're
that-
messing with you on the overlays.
Yeah, those overlays are from somebody's actual
Oh, look at the blue sky. Look
cam.
at the sky. That's the giveaway.
Go.
The bottom one's real.
Yeah, the bottom one's real.
Right, because there's smog and it's LA. It's this gray.
Also, the way some of the lighting is a little bit different when it comes onto the bridge, and the way the camera gets affected by the change in the lighting, it overexposes, which doesn't happen in iRacing.
Now, remember, Greg Hill told us this year there's a big project coming where they're gonna, redo a graphics engine kind of thing. Man, I just get excited thinking about that. Like, it's already kind of hard for us to tell what's what. Imagine after the new graphics engine, how keen it's going to be.
Yeah, go to about second 45 and watch when he passes under that bridge, and you'll see that the webcam that he's got, or the GoPro, it takes just a second to catch up with the light change.
Yeah.
So you have a moment of overexposure. But yeah, you can definitely see how they are running literally the same line and timing. That's what really shows up there.
Yeah, and again, why real racers use this as training as a tool for prepping for races and whatnot.
All right. It's too bad Greg's not around, but you're running this one as well, Mike. We have a new aero screen that's being premiered in the real Indy cars.
Yeah, 2.0 for the Halo aero screen, whatever you want to call it. Get a close look here from Marshall Pruitt, who is a reporter on the IndyCar circuit. Does this, why did I pop this in here? Well, do we need to update the car? I mean, is it worth a rescan? Can they just fudge it like we were talking about Watkins Glen curbs? It has a little bit different look to it, and with IndyCar coming back into the fold, I'm sure they want the car to be exact, especially for the Indy 500 coming up next month.
And this actually has air intakes on the windscreen.
Right, that's the big key difference visually. So that's what I'm saying is, can we get these before the 500?
They can if Indy is working with them. Remember how fast we would get some of the COT stuff? Didn't we have it like before it came out in real life?
Yeah, you got Dale Jr. on the board, so that helped. Remember the stories how he said, "Oh, we took the Hendrick car and put it in the the junior motorsports shop for iRacing to scan, and we didn't even tell anybody from Hendricks that we took it."
Hendrick.
The next one's for Brad. I'll throw it to him. His favorite topic.
It's not my favorite topic; it's yours. So
I
yeah,
don't
we
think
got to.
it's not any of our favorite topics except for that we all want to basically punch a bag or something when we talk about it.
Yeah, so we had a post from Sebastian Tixier. Says 90% of the time I click the series stats to look qualification results standings. I get this error. So he says he's tried the web and the UI. Sometimes it works. So I honestly I have not had this happen. I don't know if anybody else has, but we did get a response from Michael Hinkle, staff member, says we're aware of the bug. It's causing the problem. So luckily, it doesn't appear to happen every time you attempt to load the page. Says the UI team is working on the solution, and then a post back from Sebastian says, like I said, 90% of the time it's not working. So again, just I don't know. It just
I've had this, and the fix was click over to racing and then come back and try again, basically.
I just want the filters to be fixed. I get frustrated when I have to go in. I want to look at the series standings, and I have to go back and pick my division every time. It's got to the point where I would rather use the companion app to look at anything as opposed to going into the UI to try to find stuff. Because the companion app will keep my filter. Starting to sound like Mike.
I gave up on it.
All right, what do you think of this next one, John? It looks a little wobbly to me.
Yes, it does. So, Coke Series driver Michael Guest did a post on X. Uh, and I mean, obviously Michael's a good iRacer. He's a pro, but got P18 in Dover, and he said, "Man, I feel like I got a cloud over my head this season." And it just showed that his qualifying seems to be about 2/10 off. But what I noticed in this is video looks like there's a little bit of what do you call that? Tire scrubbing, to get the qualifying.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a good word, shenanigans.
Look, what for our audio listeners, the video shows him at Dover. He's coming out for the outlap, and as he exits pit road, he immediately is scrubbing the tires back and forth really hard, sawing the wheel, trying to get some heat generated, I guess, but to the extreme. I mean, then he gets to the point where he's come around, he's got to exit or enter the backstretch. He goes way down low and he actually comes across the backstretch sideways, just trying to get every little scrub of tire he can before he brings it up to speed.
And so you're probably having to practice that to see how much you can do without getting black flagged. And the only way you can find that out is to practice, I guess, in some kind of AI race, right? Where you've got the qualifying scrutiny on.
Yeah. Doesn't our friend DJ EJ call that cheesing the tires?
Look, you got to read between the lines. The reason he's putting this video out is he's sick of doing it. Why does he have to do it? Because everyone else is doing it in the Coke series. And if you don't, you're at the back of the field. So hopefully iRacing gets the message. I don't know. Is this a problem? I mean, what would you do to combat that? Do you maybe get the spotter to yell at you? You're gonna have to reset to the pits if you don't pick up speed, or something like that.
Well, it already does that. There's a whole qualifying scrutiny system installed. What they're doing now is just finding the limit.
Yeah, I mean, what he says in his post is, for 4 years doing this every week, or otherwise you're 2/10 off. Um, look, I mean, the road guys will scrub and they'll drag the brake and do all that stuff to get heat in the tire, but they're not coming off the access road and doing everything else like this is. I don't know. It's almost as bad as when they were dropping tires into the grass to cool tires.
But you can't call it cheating because they have a whole system in now. So if you don't break the system, you are within the rules.
When he's not the only one that's doing it. I mean, it's not a Michael Guest problem. I've seen other videos of some of the pro drivers doing it because it's like you guys said, they're doing it out of necessity and they shouldn't have to.
Yeah, look at the timesheet. That tells you who's doing it.
Well, since we're talking about the pros, Mike, we have the eNASCAR at Dover report.
Man, it was a good race at the end. I was loving it. I mean, Tucker Venter and Steven Wilson were just duking it out, lap after lap, restart after restart, and leaning on each other, like not to a point where it was too much or over the line, but just under that line. I mean, that was it wasn't clean racing; it was NASCAR racing. Um, they weren't wrecking each other, but they were definitely leaning on each other. And then you have, Xfinity standout Caden Honeycutt coming in third, and at some point here on this last restart, he gets a run on the outside, and for a moment, it looks like he's going to sail on by and win this thing. He completely misses the corner and goes a little high, and so he's out of it. But Steven Wilson ends up being the first repeat winner of 2024. The other thing on view here that was just fantastic is the the updated, oval refresh project that we've been talking about, clearly in display here at this race. We had people running all different lines at Dover, up high, like really up high, and just rolling it. And if you remember Dover in the past, I mean, it's a lot of rolling around the bottom. So it really feels like something's changed with that, oval refresh.
I experienced it a little bit last night where sometimes it really felt like it was better to get all the way down to the bottom and then kind of in the middle of the run I would start diamonding or really even almost entering a lane or half a lane up. And then later I might either go full diamond or start running back low again. Some of that might be determined on catching the cars too, but I would just kind of accidentally find that it rotated better and got a better exit depending on uh, what part of the run I was in.
Um, the broadcast, they have the Blake McCandless and they have, Evan Pasoko, and they're adding lately Ryan Vargas, who is a Xfinity driver. And so Ryan Vargas, he he's really good. I enjoy what he adds to the broadcast. As a racing professional, he says the right things about what we're seeing on screen, about how the race is progressing. So he was very refreshing.
I believe Ryan Vargas is the one. He's in the Euro NASCAR series now. I think that's the one.
So his thing was every time he would say elbows up, like all he would go, boy, these boys they got their elbows up, and then the next turn or the next lap, boy, he drove it in there. He's got his elbows up. And so it was almost like, well, the drinking game tonight is elbows up. If you hear that, you take a shot. But I'm picking on him. He's obviously was fun to listen to, though.
All right, well, let's
Uh,
talk standings. Right now, Steven Wilson is leading the standings at 194 with 2 wins. Nick Ottinger second, 180. Casey Kerwin 176. Vicente Salas is 171, and Parker White wraps up the top 5 at 159, and that's the overall full series standings. Then we have Series 2, or Segment 2. Yeah, Series Segment 2. And currently on that one, Bobby Zielinski and Steven Wilson are both sitting at the top at 76, with Tucker Minner 72, Parker White 68, Nick Ottinger and Vicente Salas 5th and 6th, or tied for 6th at 66 points.
And boy, Tucker Minter, they had him on camera, and at Dover, he would lean his head when he get into the banking, like when he was on the straightaway, his head would be straight up, but when he would go into the corner, he would literally tilt his head down at the same amount or degrees that the banking is every time. Like he was just all on it. He was focused.
That Tucker Mentor, he was in that charity event last night, and he qualified. And so all the pros, they did their lap, or the real drivers, they did their lap, and they put down some quick times. And he went out and did his Q lap, and they all said in the chat, "Wow, he beat him by like a tenth or two."
Yeah, he's a real deal. He's going to be a factor in the playoffs for sure. David, I'll take this next one. A penalty post-race for Vicente Salas was announced today for a pitting infraction during Dover. Now, they have a specific rule that you need to be single file on the far right acceleration lane getting into the pit road. And if you're not, and you pull up alongside somebody to gain an advantage, that's protestable. So apparently somebody protested Vicente Salas for this, and he got a penalty.
I wish they'd be more strict on that in iRacing, like NIS. That would help a ton.
Well, this is a specific rule to the league. This is
I-
not actually in the sporting code in the same way.
It needs to be.
But I have
I
had a
don't know.
couple of guys that will do this. What they do is you can speed a little and drop back a little to take advantage. So what they'll do is they'll gun it and pull up beside you on the left, right at pit entry, just enough to where they don't get penalized. And then not only do they gain time on you, you're stuck and can't pit if you have to pit before them.
Well, look, last night, David, I was following you for a lot of the race, and I followed you onto pit road even. And I think the guy in front of you was a bit slow, and I went to the left of you, and I went side by side with you getting on pit road.
But you called what happened, and you weren't doing it.
I told you, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm talking. These guys were gunning it. They were right on your tail, and then they'd pull over and gun it and do it on purpose every time. And you also you called it out and said, "Hey, I pit before you, so I won't be in your way," and so it wasn't as rough of a situation.
Yeah, if I was in your way from your pit stall, I probably wouldn't have done it, or I would pull over far left or something. But look, I really hate it when people give up time getting on pit road. That's free track position. People don't understand. When you're on pit road, until you get off pit road, you can pass cars.
But you are supposed to stay in line, and if you had done that in real NASCAR, they would penalize you.
Well,
So
what still frustrates me is the guys that have to drive through, 12 or 15 pit boxes every single pit. Frustrates me to no end.
Well, at places like Dover and Phoenix, you can gain time if you turn in and go around the corner on the inside, because the speed limit is determined by your speedometer in iRacing. It's not determined by timing lines.
Martinsville's the same too.
I know, but like I said, it's just like last night. I had a guy driving through the pit lanes, and right as he gets to me is when I'm pulling into my pit stall, and I end up overshooting because I can't see anything because I got a car inside of my head.
You need that audio countdown to pit road from
Oh,
crew chief.
had that. The problem was, like I said, I'm trying to get stopped at my pit sign, and I end up overshooting because I literally can't see the pit sign because there's a car, driving through the middle of me.
So, Brad, it's pretty easy to say which emoji you would be typing based on what you're saying right now.
Yeah, I'm not good with emojis, so we had a post from iRacing. So describe your favorite track with 3 emojis. And then they had a repost. It says, "Can you guess which ones they're describing?" So there's a couple of them got stuff in here. Looks like there was one from Raiki Wolf, Raik, whatever. Looks like French flag, a racetrack, and a Ferris wheel. Guessing Le Mans.
These are hard. So Greg thought we should talk about this on the script, so I put
Oh,
it up, but
yeah,
I'm
French
not
flag's a
good with
pretty
emojis.
good giveaway. If you're going with the flag, that's almost giveaway, especially on the road course side. That next one's a German flag, and then trees in a flame.
So there's one that has a 2 and a 4 and a watch. So that's Daytona, right? Like the
Well, it could
Rolex.
also it could be any of the 24-hour race. Oh, well, watch. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, the watch would be Rolex. Pretty clever. Justin, it looks like the iRacing colors are back in a real life victory lane.
Yeah. Ty Majeski put in on X here. First win of 2024 yesterday at Slinger Speedway. The iconic white iRacing hood is back and looks sharp. And this is pretty. I love hearing stories about that where they can come from sim to real life. That's the whole point of this, I think.
Pretty cool.
Well,
Well,
Majeski is
congratulations.
he's just a beast when it comes to short track. Truck series driver that just is still super competitive no matter where he goes.
I tell you one, I watched not Majeski, Connor Dillett in the late mod. He did a cars tour, and he was just elbows up with the big dogs. Double file holding the lead.
Yeah, some years ago, I think Majeski was probably had the highest oval I rating at one point in the service. Racing on a laptop with a G25, probably.
And just winning every race. That's how he got that I rating. And you'll find series where you'll always see the same guy in there every time. So Delara Dash is back now that the IndyCar is back, and I ran it the other day, and I forget the guy's name, but there's this one guy that's always in Delara Dash, and he was in there.
All right, people are always griping about the price of this and the price of that, and we have another poll about the iRacing price model, and it's from Matthew Weiss, and he says he spent over $3,600 in iRating content and subscriptions as a founder, and he asks if you could make the pricing model more attractive for the customer, and inevitably to benefit the iRacing. Are the suggestions you would propose? And there's a bunch of suggestions, but my suggestion would be look at the subscription number, and I think it's pretty damn attractive. I think they're doing okay.
I have no problem with the pricing with any of this.
Yeah, there's a poll, and 29% say no change is needed. So that's the highest on the poll. That's actually what I voted for. Some of the other options, a higher subscription with all content included at 10%, a lower subscription at 9%, Lower car and track pricing at 16%. Car and track packages 15%. Option for a 10-year subscription at a hefty discount 5%. Quit your jibba jabba 11%.
Now, what's interesting is that the reason no change is probably so high is because there's everything else is a change, and those are all splitting all that. So, not but quit your jibber jabber is also 11%. So we have 40% really saying no change. We have more than 40% saying one of the other changes. So you got to watch how you read this. But the lower car and track pricing, no, that's not, that one's pretty high. But car and track packages, you really kind of already have that because you get a discount when you buy. And I remember I would always buy a few tracks at a time early on before I just got the whatever, where it's automatic discount.
Yeah, you used to get if you bought X amount, certain number, you get a discount. But look, I mean, we've had this discussion before. At the end of the day, um, what are we paying? 100 some bucks for a year when you do the Black Friday? It's for we spend more in equipment than we do for the service. I mean, that's just the way you got to look at it. At the end of the day, what I spent in equipment would have paid for years of iRacing. And look, I left the service for 6 years. I came back, everything that I owned still had. As soon as I logged back in, all my content was still there. Anything that had been updated, for the most part, all the tracks were there, updated. Didn't have to go back and rebuy all them or do any of that stuff. Go play around the golf every weekend. 60, 70, $80, depending on where you're at. This is a pretty cheap hobby at the end of the day.
Another
Look,
interesting stat.
as a business, 10-year subscription, it never even occurred to me that, oh, wow, there might be people that would pay for a 10-year subscription. You got people like Greg Hectus who bought all the content at one point. He added everything to the shopping cart and did a checkout.
Well,
And
ironically,
so why wouldn't you offer a 10-year and let some people buy it?
a corporation made a 10-year deal with a gaming company. How'd that work out? Also, another interesting stat on here: higher subscription actually had one more vote than lower subscription.
To a certain extent, I wouldn't mind that if it would help the iRacing product and give us a better product at the end of the day. I mean, I wouldn't mind paying a few extra dollars in the long run.
I don't think any of us would mind if the price had to be higher. But the good news for us is they're at a point where there's so many subscribers that they don't need to. And they're growing. I mean, they're really growing. Look at the money they dropped on the NASCAR console license, just recently. So they're always hiring and they're in a good spot. So knock on wood, they won't have to raise prices, but if they did, it's not a big deal. I think nobody would leave.
No, and if you think about it, I mean, prices really haven't changed a whole lot. I mean, paying, 12, $15 for either a car or track. I mean, that's what we paid, 6, 7 years ago. It hasn't changed much.
Well, in this crazy age of 2024 and inflation and everything, wow, it's really refreshing actually that it hasn't changed.
Yeah, even with the rapid inflation now, there's always inflation, whether it's a little but. And so, I mean, I I can remember how much cheaper everything was in the early 2000s, right? When was iRacing founded?
Oh, wait, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. However, as much as they're growing and with all this new content that's been come out in the last 5 years, there that makes it even more apparent when older content becomes older. And we have another rescan request, John.
Yes, we do. So Kevin Lindberg has a post in the forums saying, "Hey, man, we need to rescan Summit Point. Hasn't been scanned since 2008. So 16 years." And and that track has undergone some changes since then. There's a link in the forum post to show you what that is. So, 16 years is a long time. And we've talked about this topic before, people saying this track, that track needs rescan, but, I mean, what goes into the decision at iRacing whether or not they're going to let a track go 16 years without a rescan?
That's got to be the oldest track for a long time was that really short road course.
Well, Summit Point is one of the original tracks, I think. So when the service started.
I wonder how much resources it takes to scan a track. Just what goes all into it.
Not nearly like it. I mean, now compared to what it did before. I mean, I think they basically use a van now and just drive around.
Well,
Used to,
that's
you used to have to go out and set up the tripod and scan sections, and I mean, it was labor intensive.
that's what I was thinking. Is it just one guy in a hotel in a van and just do a couple, more than a couple laps? Can it be just one guy? I mean, that's easy on the payroll.
Probably one or two, I would guess.
Well, Summit Point is probably one of the oldest. Lime Rock was old.
That's the name I couldn't think of.
Yeah. I mean, look, they do go back and they do update content. I mean, we just got an update for Okayama, um, a season or two ago, and that was one of the oldest ones too. So perhaps it's in the pipeline. I mean, I don't know specifically what's changed, perhaps with Summit Point that would warrant it. I mean, of course, if it's a repave or if they've made some sort of course changes, but you know, um, at the same time, I mean, Summit Point it's used here in rookies. I can't think of the last national series I've seen show up at Summit Point to race either.
Now, being in rookie, a lot of people, it's a first impression. So you really want to, make sure that looks good. Because everybody's run Summit Point because everyone's been a rookie.
That's a good point from an impression standpoint, Mike. I didn't think about that.
All right, Brad, are you running the B car any?
Yeah, off and on. So yeah, we had a message here or a post here from forums, and it actually dates back to the beginning of April, about there being too much grip in the B car and having records shattered. It was originally put out by Jared Carr. He went through and shows the Xfinity um, times versus iRacing times and how it's sped up. Well, it's gotten quicker in iRacing. So look at a difference between like Auto Club, um, track record of 39.9, pretty comparable in 2023, but now 2024, over a second and 2/10 quicker. So there was some talk. Tyler Hudson, I think, chimed in, said they know they got some issues as far as with the weather and if it's cloudy and cooler and stuff like that. But this is kind of just a resurrection of a thread, asking for any updates. So, look, there's always going to be the opportunity for you to drive the sim quicker because there's never any repercussion of us getting hurt. I can drive into the corner as hard as I want every single lap, and I'm never going to get hurt, and I'm never going to tear up a car. I'm just going to hit the reset, and I'm going to try again. So I think iRacing does a pretty good job of trying to get some things as close to be. But again, at the end of the day, it's too many factors, I think, that allow you to take advantage of things.
I guess you weren't around when we've actually covered real iRacing injuries.
Now, the times, look, a lot of these, they're definitely gaining speed from the 2023 iRacing strength of field qualifying time to the 2024 same one. Like you said, Auto Club, a 39.3 to a 38.7. That's a half a second. Vegas, another half a second faster. And so it's the same car, the same track. Where's the half second coming from? I think is what he's asking.
Well, I don't know. I guess I'd have to look and see when did we start to get is this part of the oval refresh? Are we starting to see some
Right.
of the effects of that? The change of the state. I don't know. I mean, is some of this from Tempest, where changes to the weather are taking even more of a dynamic effect? Again, I think a lot of it, like I said, it just, again, I can throw the car off into the corner as fast as I want to go every single time, and I can pick up speed. It's just what it is.
When I saw this, though, the question that came to mind for me was, does it matter? I mean, if we're running a half a second or 8/10 of a second faster than the real cars, do we really care? I mean, we're all running under the same track conditions, same car. Isn't it all relative? Doesn't matter.
To a point, but the whole idea is a simulation, and I think iRacing does look at real lap times of real NASCAR and try to hit that window. John, imagine at Bristol when we run, especially the 500 race, the 500 laps at Bristol coming later this fall. You're going to be in a rhythm, and that is a 15-second rhythm. And if that it was a 14-second rhythm, it's not going to feel quite right. I don't know. I want it to match.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, if you look at a track like Bristol, the faster you go, the more effect it has on your reaction time to either cause or avoid a wreck. So I think to that extent it's important, but I don't get hyper worried about, am I just exactly like the real car? I if we were running 2-3 seconds off, I'd say, yeah, that's a problem. But if it's just a tenth or two here and there, that's pretty close.
But what did we cover at the top of the show? We covered a real life versus sim video where they're literally running the exact same line. So that's what your sim fan is going to expect.
Yeah, but the post from Tyler Hudson brings up a point. You know, it says we're actively testing to reduce this, without hurting the dynamic grooves. There isn't much you can do in official races right now since those sessions are all built around real life, but leagues can set up hot sessions in the summer months to have reduced script. And I think you got to take that in consideration sometimes, depending on what the actual weather is when they race there versus when you race in the sim. If it's not close, I mean, it's going to be different. I've said before. I mean, years ago when I ran it in our 2003 league, we would run on I think Sunday nights, and we would take the weather from the Sunday race and we would try to mimic it as close as we could because that's what we were going for. But again, if a perfect example, we're at Dover this week, and the for NIS, I think the weather's like 84 degrees. Well, what happens if it's 65 degrees in Dover? I mean, it's going to be a difference. It's not going to be the same. I think the goal is to try to get it as close. I think they do a pretty good job, but there's some variables I think that just are out of iRacing's control.
All right, well that can puts a pretty good bow on that. Let's move on to events, Justin. Start off with the Cerventic Endurance Series.
Yeah,
That's a typo. It's actually Creventic.
Preventic. Okay.
Whoops.
It's all right. iRacing put out a little article here, and it looks like this event's Saturday, April 27th, and it's really I'm kind of learning as we speak about this.
Yeah, it's April 27th at the Di Mugello, I guess is how you say it. But yeah, if you're into the endurance, you this is something you want to be a part of.
Is this one that's been running and it's just now coming back active, or is this the first run of the season?
No, I think it's the second one, if I'm not mistaken.
This must not be a popular one.
Uh, well, this is like some of the other ones where it runs over the course of the year. So you've got like 8 or 9 events throughout the year. This is a mix of GT3, GT4, and TCR cars. So I, these are some of the ones I think I'd like to do. I would love to try to get a couple of us together to maybe run some of these. would be fun as opposed to just doing some of the marquee stuff.
Well, you saw I just put that mark in there. Anything you want to do, add a tab and drag everybody's attention to it on our little team worksheet. I've got some guys that from the air team that I fly with that have also started iRacing, and they're looking to run races with us as well.
Excellent.
And then we had this week in iRacing. I'll focus on the the IndyCar iRacing series again this week. 2 weeks in a row, we had Long Beach. I totally failed it. And now we have Barber. I don't even think I own Barber. So guess what I'm doing tonight is I'm going to buy Barber and learn the track.
That's a fun one. So it's a fun track.
It's a pretty short track, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's got some pretty challenging sections in it. But yeah, it's fun. A lot of off-camber corners, which are a challenge.
I like the short tracks in multi-class racing because it's a minefield, and to see if you can get through or not. As we keep talking about the events, the Nürburgring 24 hour is coming up. I guess this is the next one, which is pretty close to the same. Oh, in fact, it is the same time as the Majors 24. They are on the same weekend. I guess Majors just wasn't able to get around it. May 17th through 19th, Nürburgring 24 hour. GT3, Porsche Cup, GT4, GCR, and GR86. And I guess we don't have the majors listed on here, but this is that same weekend.
So there was some hubbub around the poster has a car on it that's not actually in the race, but I don't care. I love the posters. This one's got a green theme to it, and I am so tempted at the end of the year to gather these posters and print them or showcase them somehow. I mean, what great artwork. And if you're a automotive, or motorsport enthusiast, this kind of harkens back to the 50s when they'd put up race posters and that kind of thing.
So what's the screw up on the cars?
I would have to go back and find it, but yeah, I saw something in the forums about it.
I don't.
It's gonna be
They,
it's gonna be standard time slots, D4.0 road. I don't know if we need to hit all of these every time from now on. One thing that is a little bit interesting is that the qualifying is attached and solo. And it's a long qualifying lap because it's a huge track. So 25 minutes for 2 laps just to qualify.
Yeah, it was another thread, I think, Brad. I don't have it here.
I see it. I see it. It's got the Audi in there, which is not in there.
Then it has the wrong Audi because there's an Audi listed in the post. The Audi R8 LMS Evo GT3 is running.
That's the GT3. The one that's listed is the TCR one, which is not allowed.
Yep, nope, just the Honda and the Hyundai.
Podcast housekeeping. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform to make it easier for more listeners to find us. Mention the podcast to your fellow drivers so they don't miss out. We do appreciate it. Get involved in the discussion on Discord. And we have our iRacersLounge.com for show notes. And we're in regular rotation at the Performance Motorsports Network. And don't forget our merchandise at iRacersLounge.shop.
All right, Brad. Talladega was almost savage.
Yep. So, fantasy league results from Talladega. We had in first place iRacing Mason with 164 points. Savage 24-25 in second. Third was Run the Top, 31. Fourth was Connor Truman. Fifth was Go Chris Go, or Co.
What do you? I mean, Michael McDowell is the story. You know, he made one too many moves. Is that what we want to call it? Is if you were him in that position, I think I would have went up for that one block, but I don't think I would have came back down.
Well, I think most of us listened to most of the Dell Jr. episodes, right? And he came on to the Reloaded and basically said, "Yeah, it's on me." But he said in the moment, it's either that or he loses.
Well, I think, I mean, for the most part, look, you throw one, you're good. It's the second one that's always going to get you wrecked. And every time we've seen it happen, that's typically what happens. I think there's two bigger stories that came out of this. I think the fuel saving thing is a fiasco, and I don't know what NASCAR is going to do about it. It's just it's sad when you can visibly look at the cars and you can tell that they're not running full speed. Um,
Here's the thing, though: if they come up with some way to manufacture them not fuel saving, then they're just going to run 2x2.
well,
This car just can't. This car
that
can't. The package sucks.
correct.
The fuel
Yes.
saving is a symptom
Yes,
of the fact that
exactly.
the package
Yes,
sucks.
yes. I don't want them to manipulate the stages and all that stuff. They need to figure out the package because the package sucks, plain and simple. We've said before, this car, took the best parts of this of NASCAR and it ruined it. Speedways, short tracks, and road courses were the best races that we had. This car ruined it. Is intermediates better? Yes, but it's not worth a trade off for me. I think the other thing that came out of this is the extra hype that NASCAR exposures they've gotten with Michael Jordan and being there as a winning car owner. You're seeing NASCAR talked about outside of the typical channels for NASCAR with Michael Jordan and who he is. So I think that's good. Anytime that NASCAR gets more coverage, I think is great. But um, Daytona was just as bad as Talladega, so they need to do something with this car, and I don't know what it is other than just burn it to the ground and start over.
Can you and me somehow use this fuel saving mode, to take advantage in iRacing at a restrictor plate track? Like we group up and we try to save fuel and do one less stop or something?
Well,
They,
Only if everybody does it.
yeah, and spot on, Dave. That's the problem. The problem is when you're on TV and you show the leader running 50% throttle because he's going to dictate the speed for the whole race. Yes, when we were running at Talladega, when I'm 15th in line, yeah, I'm saving fuel. Absolutely, I don't have to run full throttle, but it's the same thing. I can't pull out and go anywhere, and that's the whole problem with the car is you can't pull out and go anywhere.
Something that
But in
actually could get
iRacing,
rid
you
of it.
can't.
Go ahead. Something we don't
Oh,
have that they have. Sorry, Justin. Something we have that they don't have, or they have that we don't have, is the stage breaks. So they know they're coming to these pitting situations where they can kind of get back together. So if they do take the risk of falling back from the lead pack in the middle of a run, it's not going to break them because they know they have this break coming up. If we lose the lead draft and it goes green, there's no getting back. So we have to go.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. Look, I'm not blaming the teams and the drivers for doing what they did. It's just a symptom of a broken car that has ruined plate racing. It's just what it is. They're going to do what they need to do to win, and I don't blame them at all. It's just again,
I'm just
I
saying
can.
that as a way that a reason that we can't really do it.
Yes, no, 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 spot on. I agree 100%. The problem was I sat there Sunday and watched this race, and never at any point this year, or really since the next gen came out, have I been on the edge of my seat watching a plate race like it used to be. You literally could not take your eyes away on the edge of your seat because you never knew what was going to happen.
But don't you
no.
remember the Talladega races where they all just lined up and ran on the wall?
So is it maybe it's more organic than we're thinking? Look, we all know early on in Talladega, you don't lead because you're using way more fuel than everyone else, and you'll be screwed when it comes time to pit. And so we're always saying in Discord, make sure you're not leading for very long. Was it a deal where the leader of that race at that point said, "Look, nobody else wants to lead. I'll lead, but you know what? I'm going to save fuel too. I'm just going to go 50% on my throttle
Well,
and
they
let
still
these
won't.
guys go around them. Let somebody else lead." And then nobody passes them because nobody wants to lead. So guess what? Everyone just slows to 50%.
That's the problem, and that's what the Toyotas tried to do in that last green flag pit stop. And before the accident, was they decided, you know what, we're going to go ahead and get the pace up. They pit as a group, and they're out there running full throttle, and they're 2 seconds quicker than the pack. Going to force them to have to pick up the speed. Again, I don't fault the teams or the drivers for doing what they do. The issue is the car. That's at the end of the day, that's the issue. You're 2 by 2 because you can't get a third line. You can't do anything. There's no momentum. There's nothing. The cars are too draggy. You pull out. It's like a freaking parachute, and you go right to the back. So again, one of the most exciting forms of racing in NASCAR, and we now have 6 races. And typical NASCAR, they've destroyed it.
All right, well, the
So,
horse is crying uncle, so let's talk about Dover.
yeah, who do you like for Dover?
I'd put my money on Hendrick. They usually dominate that race.
Truex, especially if it happens on Monday.
Yeah.
Tyler Reddick's hot right now. You can't discount him out.
Toyota or Chevrolet. I don't think Ford's going to have anything. So to wrap up fantasy, after Dover, we've still got iRacing Mason in the lead, followed by Cletus 545, Canadian third, Connor Truman fourth, and then in fifth is North South Racing.
Is Fat Boy our highest Tifosi guy down there in ninth?
Yes.
Tyler
That's
Williams.
Tyler Williamson.
Moving into the hardware section, we have an updated statement from Fanatec. I'll throw this one to you, Mike.
Yeah, so basically, Andres Ruff is the new chairman and CEO, and he put out a post on X. "Hello, Fanatec fans. I am thrilled to join Fanatec and work with this passionate team. Right now, my priority is to tackle delivery issues arising from overwhelming demand. Rest assured, we are diligently working to return to optimum operations. Once resolved, we'll refocus our energy on crafting remarkable sim racing hardware." So, kind of a nice to hear from the new guy in charge that they have a plan, at least when the previous guy, Thomas Jaegermeyer, didn't even have a plan. So at least they have a plan.
Well, he did. He said he was sorry, and that was it.
Changing the guy at the head can change a company. So, I personally, because all my gear is Fanatec, I hope a year down the road when this just won't run anymore, that I can stay in the ecosystem. But if it's they've got a long road to hoe to get back.
Okay, so this next guy is going to argue with that, David, from Sim Racing Corner. He actually said it's fail tech. Why? Well, go ahead and hit the play on the video, guys, and right at the beginning, he puts up a document that Fanatec has put out. And it's a document basically asking for investors to invest money into their corporation immediately. They're begging, is the way he describes it. This is a sign that a company is in very dire financial straits. If they're at this point where they're basically putting it out to the public that, hey, we're looking for equity. Now, the other thing that happened today is we saw the stock prices. Remember, this is a traded company on the stock market in Germany, I believe. Their shares have tanked to like pennies. Like they lost 50% of their overall value in one day, just today, from Wednesday to Thursday.
Yeah, I think they were at a high of 12 something a share. They're down to like 62 cents.
Buy low, sell high, guys. This is time to invest if you think they got if they've got a shot.
I'm not
Well,
buying
that's what
any
Bobby
stock.
said.
I'm not buying any stock, and right now I will not buy anything else from them either. I just, I, I guess maybe there's a little bit of fanboy in me since that's the company I went in with for a long time. Um, and I wouldn't mind being able to keep my stuff, but you know, that's just kind of hopeful thinking, and it's not a guarantee, sure. And he's correct. Right now, they are fella tech.
I got to thank Mike because when he made that list, when I was just a fan listening to you guys, he had that Excel spreadsheet and he'd go through what he was building and he had SemiCube on there. And when I was building mine, I had both things, Fanatec or SemiCube, and it was just kind of a toss up. And I said, "Oh, I know they know what they're talking about, so I'll get that." So that was just luck.
I mean, I don't wish ill on any company, and I think the marketplace is better with more competition. But at the end of the day, whatever happens to them, they have brought this on themselves, plain and simple. And I hate to say that, but that's just the way it is. This is not. This is the way the marketplace works. And when you don't provide service and you don't deliver on promises, and you know what, you don't deserve to continue to be successful. And it's just we've talked before. They just have not done a good job the last few years of taking care of customers. And at the end of the day, like we said, sim racers, we're a niche market, and we have memories, and we don't forget, and that's part of the issues. I know they're huge in the console area, and I feel bad for console guys, but at the end of the day, they brought this on themselves, and whatever happens, happens. I just feel bad for. There's a lot of hardware out there that's unfortunately. I have a bad feeling it's going to become just there's no more support for it or anything else, unfortunately.
All right. Well, John, did you get a chance to take a look at this Pimax Crystal video? I wish I had watched it, but I've just been slammed.
Actually, I did. Pimax, a representative, they've got a YouTube video out. They've got the Pimax Crystal Light coming in, and I think 3 different versions of it. But uh, you know, I would just say this: it's about a 24-minute video. If you're in the VR realm or you're thinking about it, this is worth looking at because it's an update with to an improvement, I guess, what I should say, to current VR. So this may be something that the guys in the VR world should
More,
take a look at.
more notably, an affordable update.
So the light version, which I think it's 700 or 800, it the key difference from this from the original unit is that there's no battery. There's no need for a battery. If you remember, Brian McCubbin had said that that was the one critical thing about the original unit was that you always had to have a battery going. So that's gone and replaced with just a headset with the strap set or over the head. Um,
It's not
there's a
as
lot of
wide
different
either.
changes.
I don't think it's as wide either.
It's lighter. It's more balanced. The price is right at $699, and you don't need base stations or it comes with controllers, but you don't need base stations. It's compatible with base stations. If you have them, you can do that. Look, if I was buying VR right now, I'd be looking at this one, the Crystal Light.
Yeah, if this one goes out, this is my next step.
How much is it?
700. So there's a more expensive version. But for sim racing, when you don't need all the stuff like you do with other games, I don't think you need more than the $700 version. I really don't. I don't think you're getting any value stepping up that to that more expensive one.
Well, I'm definitely going to try to give this a watch soon. Definitely more affordable. Definitely an upgrade compared. I mean, the reverb has been sufficient, but this one looks nice. The stats on it.
So, David, I know you do VR all the time. I've tried it. I've got a Quest 2. I don't do it regularly, but I mean, what is for you guys like me who don't normally do it? What holds you back from trying VR in
Too
iRacing?
hot.
Yeah, the comfortable part of it. So that's how I started iRacing. Is I had a Quest 1 doing VR with my Logitech, and like I always swear, if you want to get an iRacing, that's the cheapest way to do it. But yeah, just being in triples is more comfortable. The only thing that's very compelling to me in VR is you get the perfect FOV no matter what. But I think a lot of people that's got triples don't have good FO or the right FOV.
On the road racing side, it's way better. A lot of the oval guys, they like the triples because they can really kind of almost cheat and see wider than you see in real life. But at the same time, you don't have spotters. So that's a good advantage to have. I don't have the personal comfort issue because I put that thermostat wherever I want. Right? I don't have somebody telling me where to put the thermostat. Uh, and it never really gets uncomfortable.
I'm one of those people that suffer from vertigo, so that's been my one thing that has kept me from even trying it. Um,
Two of the
pretty
people two of the people I've invited over to try it literally got sick within 5 minutes of driving just at the centripetal circuit.
Yeah. So unfortunately, after suffering for that for about the last 15 years, anything that's like that I can't do. So that's my one thing to I just don't even want to try it. So,
You know,
I
and
have that too, I think.
it's I've said this before, but it's a genetic defense against poisonous food. That's actually what's going on when you get motion sickness like that. It's your brain is thinking you've just eaten a bad mushroom.
no, it's a real thing,
No,
unfortunately.
I'm being serious. I am not joking. That is literally that is what that genetic effect is. It's there. It's not a defect. It is an advantage when we were evolving to protect our ancestors from poisonous food.
So
I'm not bullshitting.
so when I was young, I could do roller coasters all the time. But as I aged, so I would say after 40, uh-uh. I get on a roller coaster and I get the vertigo and whatnot. No way.
Yeah, it's for me it was mid-30s. It's what vertigo is, it's issues with crystals in your ears and it's an unbalanced thing. There's medicine you can take and I wouldn't wish it on anybody because it's one of the nastiest things to have happen when it flares up. So
Well, vertigo may be actually a little bit different. I'm specifically just talking about motion sickness that even kids get.
no, I got you. I got you. It's just if you can imagine, um, you feel like you're on a boat, but you're not on a boat, and you can't walk straight. When it hits me, I literally will have to crawl on the floor because I can't stand up.
Well, whether you run VR or triples, Sim Labs are a good option. I think several of us have that. How about it, Justin?
Yeah, David, Dan Suzuki reviews the SimLab XP1 pedal set. And he's got a 29-minute video here, and he goes through, you know, he goes through and the pedals.
Watch this, and Dan gives some really good insight to him. There's things he likes. There's things that he had some issues with. The manufacturing on the pedal faces, where that groove is that you can see right there. If you're a sock wearer, he said that could be a little rough. Had some issues with the software, the way that they're calibrated to a degree. For most of us that run a higher end pedal set, we typically set a dead zone on the top and the bottom of the pedal. The issue with this one is if you set a 5% dead zone on them, it actually reduces your travel down to 95%. You don't get the full, you don't get used to the full pedal. So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's a good mid level pedal. He was happy with them, but they could use some tweaking here or there as well.
I think he said the best pedals you can get under 500 euros or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I think for an entry to mid level um, pedal set, I think they're good. I like the way they look. I think they look fantastic. Um, the black and the blue. I think it's a really good looking set of pedals.
All right, let's keep blitzing through the hardware. We have a Sequential Pro Shifter version 2 from SGI Racing, and it's on the Sim Racing Corners channel, and it's an unboxing.
Yeah, just gives a nice look at it. It's pretty plain Jane, kind of tall, just a tall lever hooked to an A-frame basically on a pivot. Um, Better mount it pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, it's like most of these. I mean, you can adjust the tension. Not a whole lot of detail on the video. But look, I mean, it's a sequential shifter. I mean, it doesn't have to do a lot other than forward and reverse. I mean, it's just it. Again, it's about feel and stuff like that. I mean, we've reviewed some of them that are, thousands of dollars.
You know,
290 euros here.
yeah, that's not bad because I'm kind of a little blown away actually with how much money people might spend on a sequential where you literally are just pushing up or down.
I noticed in the video what I liked about this shifter, though, when you push it forward or back, it's got that click. It's got that feel. You can tell just by the sound. It's got a good feel that you're shifting gears on a car.
Yeah, that's what drew me to the one I have. It's got it feels like you're grinding gears. Grab a gear.
So raise your hand if you cook for yourself. Do you use your steering base?
To what, cook?
Yeah.
This kind of grosses me out.
Yeah. So we had a Facebook post um, about a user that I guess got done running a few hours on his Sim Magic Alpha Mini, and gotten so warm that he decided to take and crack an egg and try to cook on it. So, uh, look, I'm a Sim Magic user. I've never had any heat issues, but to put a little bit of egg white on there, yeah. Did it fry the egg? Absolutely not. There's better ways to see how warm your base is. You can get a thermometer, a gun, and see what it is. So this was a little bit over the top for me. Um, but people do all kinds of silly stuff.
Well, it shows he says it's actually frying on here.
It's if you watch it, it's not frying. I mean, it's not frying.
It's not nearly hot enough. It's probably warm to the touch, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've got a Sim Magic Alpha, and does it get warm? Yes. Does it get? It doesn't get to where it's too hot to touch. I mean, I can lay my hand on it after driving for hours and not have an issue.
Don't do that at home, guys.
All
Go
right,
to the stove.
this next one is interesting. And it's kind of surprising. Blake Reynolds posted this one. Is he still driving pro or does he work for iRacing now?
He used to be a Coke driver. Yeah.
Okay. He says he's been having issues with his PC for weeks now, and he was about to throw in the towel until, is it Dylan Duvall 42 made basically a throwaway comment under caution on what to try, and he says it works. Anyone was curious what it was, he just turned off hyperthreading, which was crashing all his games for weeks.
Maybe Chris Waldron needs to do that. But then he don't,
Right.
and Tom.
And Tom, yeah.
Well, Tom's already spent money. He's going to do a new computer build. But Chris Waldron has a problem where sometimes when he goes to actually get in the car, it crashes the sim. Not every time. What is hyperthreading? I don't even know what they're talking about. Does that have to do with the Intel chip or the graphics card?
Chip.
I mean, it's basically processing more information in less time, and you can run more things in the background with it. That's my understanding of it.
All right, here's the Google response. Hyperthreading is also known as simultaneous multi-threading, which is a hardware technology that allows a CPU's physical cores to be divided into virtual cores or threads.
Yes, and one of the downsides to iRacing is they still do not fully take advantage of the newer CPUs and the hyper-threading that's possible with them. So I don't know if that's the issue he's having with iRacing. There's a couple more posts in here. Kevin King said, you basically your CPU is broken. And then Dylan Duvall, said back, it doesn't mean the CPU is broken. Look it up. This is a common issue with Generation 13 and 14 series. Not sure why it's a thing, but there's hundreds of people posting about this fixing constant crashing of games. It worked for myself, and on top of that, made games run better. So, um, again, I still think this is why, if we go back, apply it to iRacing, I think it's time for some sort of new graphics engine, some sort of new uh, engine or something that can take advantage of some of the newer technology that iRacing, unfortunately, as good as it is, and I'm not saying that I'm not happy. It just doesn't take advantage of where we are with computer power now.
That's not as true as it used to be, though, because they used to only run on one core, but they have actually they're running. It's a multi-core app now.
I know, but I still don't think they take advantage. It's not doesn't take as much advantage of what it could as some of the newer software does.
Agree.
All right, Mike, you're the wheel guy. Take the next one.
Oh my. It's the Soul Peck. Soelpec. Lawrence Desousa. I can't say his name. Desoswa. He gets a full-on review of this wheel, and boy, what a beauty this is. This is one of the big ones, guys, that, if you're going to get a Formula wheel with a display, this is probably on the short list.
Now, I know you're going to continue, but this pretty much sums it up. If you go to the actual YouTube video, the actual title is "This Sim Wheel is for rich people only."
Well, that's Mike.
It's a good point, though. I mean, it's a $1,500 euro. But look, when I tell you what are the best Formula wheels out there with a screen, you're paying 1,500, 1,200 to 1,600 probably. One of the that one really good Porsche one, um, is 2,200. So that goes a little bit too much over the top. But this one is kind of right in that range, and I don't know, it's got a real sharp look to it.
The screen options look really advanced. Am I seeing this? Is this a touchscreen?
Yes,
It
it
is,
is.
and the other beauty about this that he brings out in the video is you get to pick your color scheme for the buttons and stuff, but then you can even match what the display is to make it match the color screen, what the colors of the buttons and stuff too. Kind
Is
of cool.
is that configurable? Is it multicolor LEDs, or do you have to order them a certain
Oh
way?
yeah, very configurable.
The only thing I see that I might not like with this is how many of the buttons are down in the lower thumb quadrant, which doesn't work great for me being small.
It's got that what I call the Lewis Hamilton buttons on the back. There's a couple buttons on the back of the wheel. Yeah, I like it. And there's one more story, so let's finish it off before we jump to results. This one is the Ricmotech Mini Mite Pro direct drive wheelbase. Now, he akins this to those groups that buy a brand new Porsche and then they soup it up. They put performance parts on it. They make it better than it is brand new. And so that's kind of what Ricmotech has done with the Mini Mite Pro. They bought a Sim Experience AccuForce Pro 2, I think it's called. So Sim Experience makes a direct drive base, and they have had that out for several years. They take that base and they redo it. They reskin it. They put it in a new package where it looks different physically. They include this dash that comes with it that has buttons on either side. You can get it without the dash, but and you could get the wheel to go with it too. So Sean Cole from the Sim Pit, he said this is his new forever wheel.
Almost $1,700 for just a base and the button box without a wheel for a 16 newton meter base is very expensive.
I I wouldn't. This is not a buy for me because Sim Experience. I mean, they have an ecosystem, but it's 10 years. I mean, they've had it for 10 years. I mean, it's old.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's. I mean, it's not vast either. It's not a vast ecosystem.
No, and I mean, he talked about the power supplies. It's got a gigantic fan on it. I mean, it's just you could hear "wong." The cables, it's super fat, big cables. It's um, I don't know. I just I they've been around for a while. It's just some of that stuff it just never gets updated.
Tell me this: why would you buy the Ricmotech Mini Mite Pro over the SemiCube Experience or AccuForce? Why not just buy the original AccuForce? And I don't know if all the stuff that Ricmotech does to it is worth it. Is what I'm trying to say.
Well, that wraps up hardware. Let's head to the NIS results.
Yeah, Friday Open. My best track, my best chance for a win. I didn't get it done. P3. I had a pretty clean race. I got to the front, stayed there in the top five, basically saving fuel once I got to third. Then we were doing a triple bump draft, and we were able to keep a gap on the second group. There was only 6 of us in that front group, and coming to the checker, I went low, and I didn't really have any help, so I finished P3. The top 2 were hooked up, and I wasn't just going to follow. I just had to try something, and I didn't have any help, so I got what I got. Justin, P16.
Yeah, not not much to talk about. Qualified second. Always did good at qualifying. Just took damage real early, lap 10, and took the whole race to fix it. I was just maintaining.
Okay, Chris Waldron, P13. Green the last 42 laps with 41.5 laps of fuel. I ran out at the restart zone and coasted to a P13. I feel like Harry Gann. Tony Rochette, P15. Typical Dega, got black flag for too many X's just before one of 3 green white checker. Couldn't serve the pass through. All right, Kyle Pendergraft, P4, started P3 and bounced around the top 10 for the first 70 laps and even led 14 laps. Fuel strategy just went to hell in a handbasket about and had to solo pit under green for fuel. Ouch. Came back out P20 and was less than 2 seconds from going a lap down when the caution came out. Thank you for saving me, Tony. Then the cautions flew and I got tangled up in one again between the wall and another car, giving me a meatball. Fixed the required in about 2 minutes of optional and just hoped that more cautions would fall, and they did. I ended up fighting my way up, avoiding the big one, and on the final green white checker, I restarted P7, and then with a hurt car, was able to draft my way and avoid a wreck at the tri-oval for a P4. Greg Hectus wrecked out in the fence and the wheels wouldn't turn. Gone. Holy cow, P3.
Yeah, it was a great run at Tally. We pitted under green with 20 to go. I was in P10, came out of the pits P8, had a restart with 8 to go, and I thought, man, if I just stay in the outside lane, I can make some moves here. And that lane just stalled. Now, Mike, you were watching that race, and you said, John, stay on the outside line. Stay, it'll go. So what did I do? Coming out of turn 4, I went to the inside line. As soon as I did, the outside lane started to move. Of course, that figures. Guy in P1, though, spun before the line, and I moved up to P3. If I'd have just stayed in the outside lane, I would have had P2, but I'll take a podium finish any day. P3's fine.
That's knocking on the door, man. You're going to get that win. Just keep at it. Okay, well, moving on to Sunday Open. I got a P28. Got wrecked out with damage and never could catch a break after that horrible race. Chris Waldron, P6, 75 lap green flag run to the end of the race. Spread out with green flag stops. With 1 to go, was 5 seconds from the leader. Somehow they wrecked and finished 6th, just 0.2 from the win. Justin, P15.
Yeah, I'm not having too much luck here at Talladega. I had 0x until 20 laps ago, and then it just went crazy. Everybody started wrecking. It was a tough one. I actually stayed up front the whole entire race. It's bad luck.
Tony Rochette, P12, made a sweet-ass 360 spin recovery by 2 cars wrecking and hitting me on the white. John, P20.
Yeah, this was the oddest race I think I've ever been in. So at the start of the race, I think it was P2. Yeah, I started P2. Pole sitter slowed down on the green so he could drop to the back. He didn't let anybody know he was going to do that. I don't understand why you would put in a good qual lap if you're going to drop to the back as soon as a green flag drops, but that's what he did. So we had for 35 laps, we had a 10-car breakaway. The guy that was on, and all the time, so we had a 13-second lead over the second pack. The guy who had dropped back from the pole was complaining, and I just said, dude, you dogged your car and you got back there, and now you're complaining. But anyway, 13-second lead on the second pack. 1 lap from the green flag stops, the first place car went below the yellow line and caused a crash. I missed that crash, but from there on, the race was awful. And I think a lot of guys apparently were using the fixed setup in this race, because when we would get a green flag, there would be just this sudden huge gap, caused a lot of separation. Slow cars just kept blocking everybody. And I kept getting, from that point on, caught up in everybody else's mess. So it was just a bad race.
We need decent fixed sets. They need to be decent and can keep up. I really think they need to be a little bit better. And we got to try that fixed set in the Sunday fixed Talladega race. I ran and I got wrecked out. I got intentionally wrecked from behind. I totally lost my cool from that. I jumped out of the car and looked at the replay because I wanted to know what happened, and I ended up losing a lap. Then later, I was just in the middle, and some guy was pushing me into the guy in front of me, and I turned him, and I got mad and rage quit. That's rare. Let's move on to Dover. Wednesday Open, I got a P18. Had a good race going, and I got involved in a wreck that was really not my doing on lap 80 with 9 minutes damage, down on horsepower. Look, I don't remember being down on horsepower since the Gen 6 car, guys. And everything was running pretty much dead last, but with attrition, I was able to get 18th. And then, David, what happened to you?
Do I really have to talk about it?
You didn't put an entry here.
I don't know. I'm being sarcastic. Man, ran clean, ran patient, was running the top 5, top 10 most of the race. Come to a couple of late restarts, and a car that you called out for being a jerk as he was coming back up through the field. I let him go. You warned me about him. I just kind of let him go. And then he almost immediately, he does the thing. This guy actually does the thing where he goes to the inside, shortcuts the track, and gains position one. Well, the guy had been leading most of the race. He starts blocking him really bad, and the guy gives him a warning. They both get mouthy with each other a little bit later. This car that you called out literally actually takes out that leader. Just goes in and wipes him out, kills him. Says he thinks it was netcode, but he'll sort of take the blame. Then next restart, Adam spins the tires. I get a little bit of that one, but I'm on the outside lane, so it doesn't screw me up. Next restart, I'm starting on the inside. That car that took out the previous leader, he spins the tires. What are you going to do? You're going to go to the you're going to avoid the guy, right? You're not going to go try to pass him on the outside when his nose is on the wall. But what do you get when you avoid him to the inside? You get a drive-through penalty. They've really got to fix this shit. There's got to be a way to know that the leader or anybody on the inside brought out the yellow and everybody's avoiding him. Because I ran the whole race clean and boom, get the drive-through penalty and have to drive through and end up P23 after just staying out of trouble the whole race. So that's basically
just
what
sitting
happened.
there top 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got hosed on that one. Now, Adam, as you mentioned, Adam Jocelyn, who's been racing NIS for years with us, and he's always been about a 4,000 I rating and whatnot, and he just hasn't won one. Well, guess what? He wins winner, winner, chicken dinner after spinning on a restart as the leader. He spun himself out. He didn't kill his car, but to come back from that spin out and win the race. Like David had the penalty, the leader guy got wrecked out, and all of a sudden Adam was the car to beat. And you know what? He brought it home. He didn't screw up. I was like, focus, 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 and he did. And congratulations to Adam. Brad, man, you almost had it. I was watching above, and I told you today in the chat, 5 milliseconds, maybe 10 milliseconds, you would have won that race, but you got a P4.
Yep. So P4 started P8. Drove in the top 10 all race. Had worked my way, really into the top 5 during the longer green flag runs. Car just had really good speed. Was able to run down the leader multiple times. So the last long green run we had, I just drove way too hard. Was in second, and the guy that was leading just, he would take off and just burn his tires up, and then would come back to us. I just got just way too aggressive. I burned the tires off. Ended up falling back to fourth. So we ended up with the first green, white, checkered. I was starting in P3. Inside line, was able to get a really good start. Got to the leader. On the first lap, and then coming to the white flag. It started the pass, and it was up to his door as we crossed the line. Unfortunately, yellow came out right before we took the white flag. Would have had him passed into turn one, and was definitely quicker. But it is what it is. So ended up with the second green and white checkered. Had to restart P2. There's just no traction on the top side. Just did not get a good start, but ended up getting doored coming off 2. But the guy that had been leading most of the race, when I got up to him earlier, he was just throwing haymaker blocks. A guy earlier, he got up to him, he just flat took him out. So the guy just really driving like a jerk. Ended up falling back to P5, and then the last restart was able to get up to P4. So just really really frustrated. Was so close, and I think I'll run tomorrow night because I really think I got a good shot at getting a win.
I was watching above, and you were ahead of him. You had the lead when the yellow came out. Now, as somebody stated in the stated at the time, I think when that happens, it scores you at the point that the incident started. So if the incident started back in the middle of 3 and 4 at that moment, whatever you were scored at that moment is where it puts you back when it relines you up. And so even though you were ahead of him at the moment of caution, it put you back to second, because because of that.
Yeah, just frustrating.
So if it had been just a hair longer, a hair of a second longer, you know, because you were past the start finish too to take the yellow too. I mean, you guys were past it when that yellow came out, and that's not the first time we've seen that this year. Anyway, you're knocking on the door. It's coming. Kyle, he says, P pissed off, ran a flawless race, qualified 7, ran top 3 for the first run of 37 laps, and kept it in the top 10 after the restart. Ran until a meatball for tires just as the caution comes out while leading on lap 82 lap run. That forced every car from 11th on down to be stuck a lap down. Went into tire saving mode and fell back to 6th. And just before I was wrecked, I was making ground on the cars in front of me and pulling away from the cars behind me. I was set for a top 3 finish, maybe a win. Ran another 40-ish laps in P6 and then came out a 4 P5, bounced off the outside wall, overdriving the exit, and instead of hitting the brakes, he just stays in and comes down into me and slams me head on into the inside wall, ruining my race. PSA: when you wreck, slam on your brakes to avoid avoidable wrecks with other drivers. Okay, I ran today at Thursday Open. Well, I was running between 5th to 15th most of the day. We got a longer run, and I actually ran the tires off, and I was fading. I finally caught a caution. During the caution, I got a meatball for the right tire going flat. I literally ran the tire flat. Later on pit road, I had to dodge a guy that was sideways and ended up speeding. I was able to quickly recover from that penalty. Then on a restart with 30 to go, somebody wrecks and I get hit and have a meatball. 5 minutes damage. My race is pretty much over. With some late restarts and carnage, I was able to rally with that much damage to finish P8. Tony Rochette, P10, had the top 5 car all race, a bunch of cautions, and over 100 laps green. For the first time ever, I blew a tire with 5 laps to go while in 6th. Let's go to IndyCar iRacing Series. I actually ghosted the Thursday night race for practice. I did a fly around at Long Beach because it's a new track to me. I actually found Steve and Dale Jr. on the Queen Mary boat out in the ocean. They're up on the bow. Then I ran the race on Saturday night, wrecked myself out. It was like lap 3. I barely brushed the wall. It took the wing off. And then 2 corners later, I plowed hard into the wall with no downforce, DNF. I think Tom ran and he said he was going to get a top 3, but he hit the wall. And then I think Greg ran and he also hit the wall. Open, Brad, P9.
Yep. So ran Tuesday night, just a little bit of practice for Dover. So started P9 again. Just had a really quick car. Was able to drive up to just outside the top 5. Ran there for most of the race. Ended up with a late race restart with about 20 to go. Just got too tight fighting for P5. Ended up losing 7 spots. So had a guy kind of. I ended up looking back at it. Went back and looked at the replay. I got loose up underneath him and got up into him and that shot me down the track. So my fault. Ended up with a green white checker, drove back up to P9 again, just trying to get a shakedown for Wednesday night. So
And then IMSA, P5 at Long Beach.
yeah, I actually ran 2 of these. First one was a disaster, so I didn't even put it in here. But super challenging track. Everything happens real fast here. It's just so tight. It had great pace. I ended up with some nose damage from a back marker, who literally, I swear, came to about a stop in the Fountain Complex. So was able to stay about a second ahead of the sixth place car almost the entire race. Everybody was complaining about the GTPs, just no respect in regards to slower classes. I mean, it was just constant dive bombings, really in the corners or attempted passes in real bad areas. I mean, we're going to the Fountain Complex and somebody's throwing it in underneath you. It's just patience, patience, patience. That's all. We'll give you room. We'll let you go. Just there's certain areas where you just don't need to force the issue.
Okay. I ran Delara Dash at Phoenix, P3. I actually cut the dog leg just a hair and had a slow down penalty. So they have a deal where you have to stay on the track. You can't cut the dog leg when you're in an Indy car. And so I just barely cut it, and I had to slow down, and but still got a nice P3. And then last night, Justin Pearson, you helped out a charity, the Dale Jr. Foundation. Uh, I want to call it an endurance race at the Rock.
Yeah, it was 508 laps at Rockingham with the 87. Uh, so you had to go, kind of the process of it, you had to go in a qualifying event. The top 38 qualifiers made it to the show. Then you had an LCQ, you could still qualify if you didn't make it, and the top two out of that made it to the show. So there's a total of 40 cars, and it was the coolest thing ever. I got to drive with the people I watch on TV, Junior, Carson Hocevar, Lane Riggs, Parker Kligerman. I'm missing, and Junior, obviously. And I got passed by my idols. It was cool. But yeah, I started the race. It was really rocky the first start. The P2 spun his tires off the bat and it stacked up the whole entire field. I had 2 minutes of damage, never even made it the first turn. So that put me to the rear. And yeah, so I fought my way back all the way from my goal was to make it to the top 20. I made it to 21st. But yeah, it was a long race.
All right. And then you said Dale Jr. gave a speech at the end, and then you got a nice note from Kelly Earnhardt for thanks.
Yeah, Junior, yeah, he was class act. He was really cool. He's a good little racer. And yeah, he just mic'd up there at the end, thanking everybody coming out, supporting a great cause. And then that screenshot I sent you from Kelly Earnhardt, that was enlisted in a Discord channel that was throwing this event, and Blake McCandless actually posted it, and I thought it was neat because I tell you the truth, I entered because I was racing with Dale Jr. and all that. I knew it's for charity. I didn't know for what, and they raised $1,900 or something for kids that for low income families for lunches and supplies and all that. So that part was pretty cool. And she wrote a little letter thanking everybody.
All right. And yeah, you had a couple regrets, like, man, I wish you were a little bit more competitive. But I told you, look, now you have an experience of what to expect. So next time, maybe you can be competitive.
And a race full of stars like that, and you're still 21st. That's competitive.
Okay, good
Yeah,
point.
it was just I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, that's what I was kind of saying. That's what screwed me in the very beginning was once I got halfway through the race, let's just say I was doing pretty. I wasn't as fast as like Matt Booth and all that, but I was only a couple tenths off. But I was 2 laps down. I couldn't get ahead. But I can't wait till next year. If you think you're a good driver, you do that combo.
Rock with the 87. Yeah. I think I remember trying that, and a few laps later, I didn't have any tires left, basically.
It's really the only track I see a legitimate Highline works. That was the only thing that great speed, momentum.
Okay, jump to final thoughts. David Hall.
All right, so I made a mistake when we were talking events. Nürburgring and Le Mans are actually separate weekends. So, Justin, I see you're signed up for Nürburgring, and I am. We might see if we can grab somebody else from the team if they want to run, or we might jump pull somebody over from Bad Sim Allies or actually the Raiders that I fly with. But Le Mans is the following weekend. So made a mistake there on the calendar. That's all I got.
You're going to have the Indy 500 on those weekends too, I think, fixed and open.
Which weekend is that?
It's the second and third week of May, right?
Then that's after Le Mans. Le Mans is on like Memorial Day weekend.
That's the last weekend of the May, right?
Yeah, the major Indy Speedway 500 is the 18th and 19th, I think, same time.
Yeah. Brad Wren, final thoughts.
A little disappointed after running last night, but had a bunch of finishes up in the top five. So, you got to finish in the top five to eventually get a win. So that's what I'm hunting for. Just outside the top 10 at NIS points. So slowly making progress, getting a few positions each week. My rating's gotten back up above 3,000, so that's kind of where I've been wanting to get back to. Can try to get back up in the mid threes. I'll be happy. So just really having a good time. Love racing with you guys. And just appreciative of the whole team and all the support you guys give. Got some great cheerleaders in here, which is helpful. So Tyler Williamson's a wonderful cheerleader. So Mike, you jumped in last night to spot a little bit, and I appreciate that. So just grateful to be part of Team Tifosi.
Yeah, we had a great time last night. I think we had 4 guys in our split. John Curley, final thought.
Yeah, I want to follow up with Justin Pearson. Justin, I'm proud of what you did last night. I mean, you got in that race with some good racers, and to finish 21st. Normally we would say, 21st, that's not good, but that was a darn good finish to get into that race, do that well. I know what, 4.5 hours. That's pretty freaking awesome, and I'm proud of my Team Tifosi teammate for doing that. And it's like David said, 21 is not bad. And I would echo what Brad just said. This is a great team, a great group of guys. I love the camaraderie. I consider myself to be lucky to be part of this team.
All right, very good. Justin Pearson, final thought.
Man, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for the kind words. It means a lot. But yeah, no, I just want to get better. I don't mind getting my butt kicked. That's the only way to get better. If you win every single time, you're going to just plateau. So, but yeah, this group's great. Anything I need help with, my craft slowly coming along. David took half hour out of his day to teach me JRT. I still think he needs to be a sales rep for him, but yeah, we're going to try this Dover race, see what happens. You guys put pressure on me. You guys have all these good finishes.
All right. Yeah, well done. My final thoughts, man, I'm a little bitter about Talladega not getting my win that I normally try to get at a restrictor plate, but man, I got a P3. I was in position. I had my mojo. So it's not all lost. But look, I do a lot of living vicariously through my teammates, watching Adam Jocelyn break through finally. Finally. I mean, he has been running NIS top split for years and not got a win. Well, it wasn't top split, but it was a good strength of field. It was like high 3,700 or something. And so, well done to him. It was neat to watch him. Really neat to watch Brad almost win it as well. So yeah, that's almost like me winning. So we'll take it. With that, hey, we'll see you on the track later.